Shalom and welcome to this Hebrew verses study. I was thinking this last week about these Hebrew verses studies and I almost always have like my Hebrew letters coffee cup. It's kind of like my little personal hallmark, right? But I was thinking more generally about Hebrew verses and how that is kind of the vibe. Like ultimately, Yeshua is our teacher and we're all following him. And scripture has much to say about that, of course. But then also we disciple each other. You know, we can explain things from the word to each other. I'm teaching you the Hebrew language. Maybe you're picking up some spiritual teachings from me along the way, like I hope. And it's almost like, you and I are getting together for coffee every week and just like studying scripture together, learning some Hebrew, praying, that kind of thing. It's almost like I'm discipling you. So anyways, I thought that that's neat. That really is the vibe of these Hebrew verses studies, and I'm thankful for that relationship. So this is Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 43, I think it's 43, verse 15. Yeah. All right. So let's just pick up where we left off in this story, and let's pray for a moment first also, actually. Thank you, Abba Father, for this opportunity to study a little bit of your Holy Torah. Thank you. Some of your Torah, there are like laws and teachings and whatnot, and then lots of it is stories also. Thank you so much for this story that we're reading, and that we can read together and focus on Yeshua, because this is the Bible that he read. This is the language, the Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue that he read it in. I pray that through your Holy Spirit, our minds would be open to understand the holy writings. I pray that you would reveal yourself to us personally. I thank you so much for your assurance that when we draw near to you in sincerity and with a whole heart, then we will certainly experience you drawing near to us also. I pray that we would experience your nearness this day, that we could get a little bit closer to you, that we could become a little bit more like you, because you're our Avinu Shabbat you're our Father in heaven. And thank you for your help. Amen. All right, so let's just pick up in the story where we left off. So Jacob, he just says, if I'm bereaved, I'm bereaved. Go on down to Egypt. Verse 15. Vayikhu, and lakacht, and took. Ha anashim, so the ishes, the men, at, indicating what they lakacht, what they took. Ha mincha, the present. Hazot, the this. My daughter Tears and I always laugh at that. They took the present, the this. In other words, they took this present. U mishneh. Now this is an interesting word. Let's read the rest of the phrase and then we'll get back to this. So the mishneh, the something of kesef. So kesef is silver or money. Lakhu, so they lakacht, they took the yadam, in their yads, their hands. All right. So the Mishnah kesef. What does that mean? Well, this is the reason I want to point out this word to you is because, as you probably know, in addition to this Hebrew verses series, I'm also doing a series through the Mishnah. As you probably know, the Mishnah is some of the earliest Jewish interpretations of the Torah, all written down. It was kind of like the early framework of a civil law of the nation of Israel. And there are definitely instances where the writings of the Mishnah, because they come from the same Jewish world that Yeshua and his disciples who wrote the New Testament came from, because they come from the same Jewish world, the Mishnah can help us to understand the Yeshua and the New Testament better. Anyways, one of the things I talk about in my introduction to the Mishnah is how most people don't even know what Mishnah means. And sometimes we have this idea that, it means the oral law, like the Jews made up this second law, and just this word of mouth stuff. And that's actually something of an urban legend. And you can watch the introduction to that series for yourself if you haven't, to learn more about that. But this would be an example of that. Like Mishnah here. Okay, so this is the same word. It has a couple different meanings. Here, it comes from the it's related to the Hebrew word for two, which is shnaim, and then it comes from the verb shana, which generally can have the sense of repeating. So here Mishnah kesef means double the silver or double the money is the idea. It can have a couple other meanings, like it can mean second to, or it can mean like repetition. So for instance, the Mishnah, in the sense of the Jewish oral law, so to speak, it has the sense of a repetition of the Torah. You're repeating the Torah and you're expounding upon it, and it can also have the sense of being second, like it's second to the Torah. So the oral interpretations of the Torah are secondary to the written Torah. And that's appropriate. It's entirely appropriate. Anyways, so that's an example of this word as it's actually used in the Hebrew language, and in this story, they took Mishnah Kesef in their hands, ve'at, so indicating what or who else they lakacht took, Benjamin, Benny boy, vayakumu, and they kumed, they got up, vayildu, so they yaraded. They went down Mitzrayim, to Egypt. Vaya'amdu. Oh, that was fast. They got there. Vaya'amdu. And they amaded. They stood. Lifnei. In front of, before. Yosef. Who, of course, was not known as Yosef because that was his Hebrew name. He was Zaphanath Paneah. Or Tzofnat Paneah is the way you'd say it in Hebrew, I guess, even though it's probably not a Hebrew name, because that would kind of, wreck the whole point of him having an Egyptian name if it was a Hebrew name. Verse 16, Vayal, so and Ra'ad and saw, Yosef, Itam, he saw them, with them, Itam here is actually used as a preposition to mean with. He saw with them at, indicating who he saw. There we go. Binyamin. He saw his little brother Benny boy. Vayomer. And he said, La asher. So he said la is two. And then asher here. Now asher can mean who, what, when, where, or which, depending on the context. The nice thing is in Hebrew it just means all of them. So you don't have to splice in your mind a specific nuance. But here it has this sense of a person. So who? So he who all was on or over Beito, his bite, his house. So was there a guy standing on top of his house that he was talking to? No. It means it was like the manager, the steward of his house. This is what he says. Have, so bring, cause to bow, to come. At, indicating who is to be brought. Ha anashim, the ishas, the men. Ha baita, so bait is house, right? On the indicates in like the direction. So into the bait, into the house. Utavoach. So utavach, that verb means to to butcher. Usually like in the sense of like slaughtering an animal, butchering. Tevach, so an animal. V'hachein, the verb there is kun, prepare. Ki, because iti, with me. So there's another instance of the aleph and tav being used as a preposition meaning with. Yochlu. They will achal, they will eat. Ha-anashim. The ishas, the men. Ba-tzaharaim. So this is an interesting word. Tzaharaim. The word there, tzahal, it's related to light and one of the Hebrew words for window. And then here we have it in the double form. Im is like a dual plural ending. So it's like double light. And this refers to the middle of the day. Noontime. Lunch. Okay, so we can E with them a new day. Verse 17. Vaya'as, and Asad, and did. Ha'ish, the man. Ka'ashel, just as. Amal, said Yosef. Vayave, and brought, caused to come to bow. Ha'ish, the man. Et, indicating whom he brought. Ha'anashim, the ish is the men. Beita, so to the bite of the house of Yosef. Wow, there's a lot of Yosef in here. See this? Look at Yosef, Yosef, Yosef. 3 in a row. Wow. Good thing this isn't a slot machine. Or maybe it's too bad it isn't, because we'd probably win something right now. And no, I don't play slot machines. Okay. Maybe someone could make up some kind of cool biblical version with like Hebrew words. And then if you could like line up the word or line up the name or something, then you'd like, I don't know, win some biblical points or something. That's a neat idea. Okay, so now which one of these Yosefs are we on? Okay, right here. Vayeru, so and Ra'ad and Sa, ha'anashim, the Ishas, the men, ki, that huvu, they were brought, caused to bow, to come, bait, so to the bait of the house of Yosef. Of course, they didn't know him as Joseph, they knew him as Zaphanath. Vayomru, and the Amar, they said, al deval, so like literally on the word or on the thing of hakesef, the silver, the money, hashav, that was returned, ba'am, ooh, this is a nice long word. Can you read it? Ba'am techotenu. The kesef that was returned, ba'am techotenu, in our amtachats, in our sacks, ba'tchila, so in the start, at the beginning, anachnu, we, muvayim, we're being brought, caused to bow, to come, lehit golal. Now this is a really interesting word. The verb is galal, and it means to roll. Lehit golal, but it's used in a really broad, range of applications. Alenu, on us. Here, let's just read the next word, and then we're actually going to look at how this is translated in a couple different ways. Ulahit napel, and to nafal, so and to fall. Alenu, on us. So to roll on us and to fall on us. This is not a good thing. Yeah, you do not want to be rolled over and fallen upon, especially by an Egyptian ruler. Maybe if you're just like play wrestling with your kids, it's okay, but this is a different situation. Okay, so let's look at this. Look at this in eSword. I just want to show you something. Here we are, our lovely little eSword. And we are going to look at verse, let's see here, where are we? Right here, verse 18. So, see, I have all my favorite translations and whatnot lined up here. And then I'm in the way, I'm sorry for being in the way of me. And then here, you hit compare, and it'll show you the verse as it's rendered in all these different ones. So here's an old translation of the Septuagint, Complete Jewish Bible, etc. eSword is a very powerful tool. One of the reasons I use it in these lessons is to show you how to use it, so that I'm not just giving you a Hebrew fish in each of these Hebrew verses lessons, but I'm also teaching you how to read and teaching you how to study for yourself. All right, so the first one I want to show you is the most literal of all of these renderings. Young's literal translation. For the matter of the money, which was put back in our bags at the commencement, we are brought in, to roll himself upon us, and to throw himself upon us. So that's how that Young's literal does a nice job of actually pointing out the fact that that verbal root is galal, to roll. Now let's look at a couple more literal translations here. So, for instance, New American Standard, it just says that he may seek occasion against us. This is similar to the King James and also to the Jewish Publication Society, which you can see right above it. Seek occasion. So it's kind of the idea there. NRSV, that he may have an opportunity to fall upon us. So that's kind of the idea there. Now there's a reason I'm pointing this out. Galal is a really interesting verb in the history of the early Yeshua movement and in the Besorah, the gospel. For instance, the province that Yeshua and his movement came from was the Galil. It's from that verb, galal, to roll. When it says roll away the stone, the verb there for roll is galal. Similarly, revelation in Hebrew comes from that word also. To roll away means to reveal. So the final book of Holy Writ in Hebrew, the revelation is referred to as hit galut. So the revelation of Yeshua the Messiah, when it's rolled away and he's seen for who he is. So anyways, it's interesting. It's interesting, this specific way that it's used in this case, like seeking an occasion, an opportunity, that kind of idea. Maybe there's something there. I'll kind of leave that. I'll just share that insight with you, and then I'll leave it to you to come up with some incredible epiphanies from it. Can you come up with any? Okay. So, anyways, that's what he wants to do. Roll on us and fall on us. V'lakachat, and to lakach, to take, otanu, us, la'avadim. So for aveds, for servants or slaves. V'at, not only does he want to take them, v'at, he also wants to take chamorenu, our chamors, our donkeys. At least that's how the modern English says it. Young's literal, of course, the old English phrases it in a different way. That can be taken in a couple different ways in modern English. So we won't go there. But it is funny. He wants to take us slaves and our verse. What are we at here? 18. Vayigshu. I think this is 18. Oh, sorry, 19. Vayigshu. So, and they nagashed. They approached. El to Ha'ish, the man, Ashel, who all was over Beit, the house of Yosef. Vayidabru, and they devoured, they spoke Elav, to him. Petach, so the verb petach means to open. A petach is like an opening or a doorway. Is this too small? Can you read this okay? It means we won't have to be like skipping through the text like so fast, you know. Except that I just totally lost our place. Anyways, sorry about that. Okay, anyway, so petach habayit. So here we are. So petach, that's like the opening or the doorway of habayit, the house. Verse 20. Vayomru, and the Amar, they said, Be Adoni. So, okay, Adon is master, or lord, or sir. So it's like my master. It's, you know, a respectful way of addressing someone. Be here is interesting. I think it's always used in conjunction with Adoni. Be Adoni. It has the sense of like, oh, or please, or alas. It really depends on the context. Be Adoni. Yarod, so you know, yarading, descending. Yaradnu, we yaraded, we descended. Okay, so they're doubling up the verb for emphasis. That's something you do in Hebrew. So it's kind of like they're really, in this case, it's like they're emphasizing that they're telling the truth. This is something we really did. We really did descend, batchila, in the beginning, lishbol. So to shavar, to buy, ochel, food. Verse 21. Vayhi, and it happened, ki, that vanu, so we bowed, we came, el, to hamalon. So it's like the inn, where you're going to stay the night. Vaniftecha, and we, there's that word petach, and we petacht, we opened. Hey, remember that? Because it says that they're having this conversation with this guy where? At the petach, so the opening or the door of habayit, the house. Okay, so there's that verb for you. V'niftecha, and we petacht, we opened at amtechotenu, our amtachats, our sacks. V'hinei, and look, chasaf, money, ish, so of each man's money. Bafi was in the pet of, literally the mouth of, in other words, well, I guess you could just say mouth in English too. In the mouth of amtachto. So his amtachat, his sack. Kaspenu, our kasef, our silver. Bamishkalo. So the verb there, shakal, means to weigh out. From this verb we get shekel, which of course is the primary monetary unit in Israel today, and also was in ancient times. So, I just made a really funny face when I was taking that big sip of coffee. I hope you do not rewind this lesson and laugh at me, and I hope you don't take a picture of that either. Okay, so anyways, b'mishkala, so it's like by its weight, so you know exactly. Vanashav, and it was shuved, it was returned. Oto, it, b'yadeno, so in our yads, in our hands. Verse 22, v'chasef, and silver acher, other silver, horadnu, so it was also, yaraded, went down, v'yadenu, in our yads, in our hands, lishbol, ochal, to buy food. Lo yadanu, the verb yada means to know, so lo yadanu, we didn't know, we don't know, me, who, some, put, kaspenu, our kasef, silver, ba'amtachotenu, in our amtachats, in our sacks. Verse 23. Vayomer, and he amard, he said, Shalom, peace, lachem, to you. Shalom, lachem, peace to you. All tirau, so all don't tirau, don't yara, don't fear. Elohechem, your Elohim, your God. Ve'Elohei, so and the Elohim of, the God of Avichem. Your Av, your father. For a minute, I wasn't sure if that was fathers or father, but if you were to say fathers, you'd say Avotechem. So Avichem, your father, Natan, gave, Lachem, to you, Matmon. That's a nice word. Treasure. From the verb taman. Taman often means to bury something in the ground, like hiding it away, like treasure. Matmon, ba'am techotechem. And your amtachats, your sacks. Kaspechem, your kesef, your silver. Ba, it came, elai, to me. Vayotze, and the verb yatsa means to go out. So vayotze, and he brought out, alayam, to them, et, indicating who was brought out, Shimon. Verse 24. Vayave, and brought, ha'ish, the man, et, indicating who was brought, ha'anashim. The ish is the man. I probably don't have to say every time like at, indicating blah blah blah, right? I think I'll just skip it because I think you get the big idea. That's kind of the fun of translating too, like when you're reading and translating is like trying to find the balance between being really technical and correct and actually getting like a decent flow where it actually makes sense, especially with stories like this. Beita, to the bayit, the house of Yosef. Vayitan, and he natan, gave Mayim, water. Vayilchatzu, and he rachatzt, he washed. Ragleim, their regels, their feet. Vayitain, and he natan, gave mispo, fodder. Lachamoreim, so to their chamors, their donkeys. Verse 25. Vayachinu. Okay, so and they like kund, they prepared. Ad hamincha, the present, ad, until bo came Yosef. Ba tzaharaim, remember tzaharaim is the middle of the day, noon. Ki, because shamu, they shammed, they heard, or shamad, sorry, they heard. Ki, that sham, their yochlu, they were to achal, eat lachem, bread. Verse 26. Vayavo, and bod, came Yosef, habaita, so to the bayit, the house. Vayaviu, and he brought, lo, to him, and they brought, lo, to him, et hamincha, the present. And did you appreciate how I didn't point out that et here indicates what they brought? Because it's probably kind of a no-brainer. Et hamincha, they brought the present. Ashel, which bayadam, was in their yad, their hand, habaita, to the bayit, the house. Vayishtachavu. Now this is an interesting word here. Shacha is the verb itself, and it means to like get down low. So here we have, in this case, it has the sense of like causing yourself to get down low. So like bowing yourself down. Vayishtachavu lo. So and they bowed themselves down al tza. So to the eretz, the ground. So they were getting their noses right down in the dirt in front of him. Essentially, vayishtachavu. Now what's interesting about this word is this is also the Hebrew word for worship. Now clearly they weren't worshiping Joseph as such. They were bowing down in front of him as a social custom, indicating several things, I'm sure. Respect, probably also submission to his authority, his position of power and whatnot. So this is an interesting word. And you'll see this ancient Middle Eastern social custom throughout the stories of the Torah. This is something that that Abraham did too with the Hittites. He bowed himself down to them. Obviously, he wasn't worshiping them. He wasn't like, oh, I forgot who my God was. You can be my new God. Like, no, that's not what was happening. Anyways, and there's a reason I'm pointing this out. Sometimes people are paranoid of the custom of like giving someone a little bow as a sign of respect. Like, for instance, sometimes in certain martial arts systems, you'll like give your training partners a little bow, or the person who's teaching you or whatever a little bow. And sometimes if you come from like a really conservative Christian background, you'll see that and you'll be like, oh my, they're the worship. No, that's wrong. You can't bow down to them. You're going to get demon possessed doing that, like something like that, And I just want to point out to you, if you've ever wondered about that this is not a Western custom. This is an Eastern custom, and it's also a Middle Eastern custom, and it's actually something in the Bible. So, if our fathers and mothers in the faith, when it was appropriate, followed the social custom to give someone a little bow as a sign of respect, it's okay. If let's say you're learning some kind of fighting system, and part of it involves giving, your training partner or your teacher a little bow, like, don't worry. You're not worshiping the person. God's not going to get mad at you. You're not breaking the Torah. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get demon possessed. It's not demonic to give someone a little bow as a sign of respect. We don't really do that in Western society generally. So, you might not want to go around like giving everyone a little bow as a sign of respect, or they're going to think you have like a nervous twitch, or I don't know, like maybe someone's going to try and like do the Heimlich maneuver on you, It's like, oh no, the person's keeling over. But just, just be aware of the fact that in many ways, in some ways anyways, Eastern culture, like Asian culture, is closer to biblical culture, because Eastern and Middle Eastern cultures are kind of from the same area, same continent. So just be aware of that. Sometimes out here in the West, we actually have gone farther from ancient Middle Eastern custom and also biblical custom than folks out there in the East. So hopefully, if you maybe you practice some form, like you're learning some fighting system, or you have kids and they want to do martial arts, like, don't worry, it's okay. The little bow is okay. They did it in the Bible. All right, verse 27. Vayishal. Okay, so the verb here, sha'al, means to ask. So vayishal, and he sha'aled, he asked, lahem, to them, l'shalom, like for peace. And this is like a Hebraic expression. To ask someone's peace means to ask how they're doing, like to inquire of their welfare, so to speak. It's kind of the idea. And this is the case in modern Hebrew also. Like, if you're talking to a guy and you want to say, how are you doing? The kind of the official way of doing it would be to say, ma shalomcha. So, what's your shalom? What's your peace? Of course, there are lots of other ways of asking it too, but that's kind of like the classic way, So that's what he did here. How are you doing? Vayomer, and he amard, he said, ha. So there's ha. In this case, ha doesn't mean the. It's indicating that he's asking a question. It functions as a question mark on the beginning of a sentence, which is the best place for a question mark to be, because then you know that the following sentence is a question mark instead of having it at the end. So you read the sentence in the wrong, tone, and then you realize it's a question. Yeah. So anyways, Hebrew is really smart that way. So hashalom, he's asking about the shalom avichem, of your father, hazaken. So zaken literally is a beard, and in Hebrew it also means like if you're old, because the older you get, the bigger your beard gets, assuming you're male. Hashalom avichem hazaken. So how is your old father doing? Is the idea there. Ashel hu amaltem, of whom you amard, you spoke. Ha odenu. So again, ha here is indicating is asking a question. Odenu. So od means still. Chai. So is he still chai? Is he still alive? Is the idea there. Is your old dad still alive that you told me about? So, verse 28. Vayomru, and they amard, they said, Shalom, peace, la'avdecha, to your Eved, your servant, la'avinu, to our Av, our father. So, he's doing well. So, the idea of shalom, this is very insightful actually. It really gives us a better sense of shalom in the Hebrew and what it means. Like, shalom means you're doing well, basically. It's a big word in the Hebrew language, and it's a very powerful word, and it's too easy for it to become just another word or to become cliched. Because in Hebrew, to say shalom to someone means hi, it means hello. To say shalom to someone means goodbye. So we're always saying shalom to each other, even like in my conversations with people that are learning Hebrew with me, or that are, Jewish or Messianic Jewish or whatever. I'll often say shalom bye when I hang up. I don't just say shalom and then hang up on them. I say shalom bye. Because, you got to translate a little bit, right? Anyways, but it's a very powerful thing. And, this was the case also 2,000 years ago. When Yeshua, after he was raised from the dead, our Holy Master appeared to his disciples, and what were the first words off his lips? He said, Shalom Aleichem. He said, Shalom to you. Peace be unto you. And that's very powerful. So anyways, it doesn't, and you think also about the Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing. So, you can tell I'm saying something really profound right now because one side of my face is beginning to light up. So I hope you appreciate that fact. It's kind of like when the revelation really begins to flow through me, then I start to look angelic. Just kidding. It's just the sun. I like to film these lessons with natural lighting, and it's actually cloudy today, which is a rare occurrence here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, for it to be cloudy. Anyways, but I just really have to get some traction out of the fact that my face is lighting up as we're talking about this, about Shalom. So, this is also the case in the Birkat Kohanim, though, in the priestly blessing. It finishes with the word Shalom. And may he vayasem lecha shalom, and may he not just give you peace, but establish peace for you, like place peace for you, is the idea. Yeshua's shaliach, his apostle to the nations. How did he open most of his letters? He said, grace and peace to you, chesed and shalom to you, from God the Father and from our Master Yeshua the Messiah. So it's a big deal. The gospel, the Besorah, is referred to as the gospel of what? Of peace. So, to understand what peace actually is helpful. When Yeshua sent his disciples 2 by 2, shnaim shnaim, he says that he sent them, and he said, when you're going to come to a town or a village, and someone's going to invite you to stay with them, when you walk into their house, bless it with your shalom, with your peace. So it's very powerful. Like Yeshua sent his disciples as agents of shalom, to bring shalom to individuals, to families, to whole communities, by healing their physical sicknesses and whatnot, and disabilities, and if they had any kind of demonic stuff going on in their life, to free them from that. They brought shalom in very powerful and very practical ways, and so it's really neat to see how shalom is used in this story, and just to realize like what a basic concept it is, but not basic in like a dumb way, like basic in a very profound way. Like shalom means you're doing well. So God sent Messiah so that we could do well again. We could be okay, and that's the power of the gospel. And we are agents of that shalom. So God wants us to do well. He's doing well. So just remember that. Don't let shalom become a cliched word for you. Remember the smash of it. Okay. I can tell it's time for me to discontinue because my face is the glow is beginning to subside. Okay. Vayik do. Okay, this is interesting because we actually have 2 words here to bow down. Vayik do. And actually, let's look at this for a second, and then let's look at the next word, and then we'll look at it on Isur. Vayishtachavu. So it's like it's like 2 different words for bowing down. So let's see what the nuance between the 2 might be. And this is, let's see what, verse 28, hey? Okay. Verse 28. And again, these guys are bowing down to Joseph, and it doesn't mean they're worshiping him, right? Okay, so look at this is great. They bow down in homage. So maybe this helps you to understand worship also. Like worship is an abstract word in the English language, but in Hebrew it's a concrete word. In Hebrew it's a physical action. It means to bow your body down to the ground, like your face goes in the dirt, kind of idea, in front of somebody. And so, when we talk about worship, that's what we're doing in front of God. We're bowing ourselves down to him that way. And of course that's a symbolic action, so it doesn't hurt to ask, what does that actually mean? I mean, could you imagine if you don't just go to church, for instance, or go to synagogue to worship and you just bow down and put your face on the carpet? maybe sit there for 5 or 10 minutes and be like, okay, that was good. I worship God for the week and then go home. Like, not exactly. I mean, it is a very powerful act to actually do that. And honestly, I think we should do it more. Just to get right down on your knees and just put your face on the ground in front of God and just say that, you're God and I'm not. It's a very powerful thing. In the synagogue, we actually do that. We get right down on our faces on Yom Kippur. It's very, very powerful time also. It's one of the rare times we do that in the traditional prayers. Anyway, so let's look at how this is translated. They bowed down in homage. It helps us to like I said, it helps us to understand worship better. Excuse me, Mr. Izzy. Okay, so compare. And they bowed. They bowed in respect. Okay, bowed their heads and prostrated themselves. You know what? Let's look at sorry, I forgot. Let's look at the Hebrew word here real fast for this. Okay, so there's the first word that I mentioned that we didn't look at yet. Kadad. This is interesting. To shrivel up, contract. So that gives you an idea. Okay. So they bowed their heads and prostrated themselves. That's how the ESV renders it. Kadad. They knelt and bowed down. So there's actually a question here whether the verb kadad means to bow your head or to kneel down. Let's look at some more translations here and see how it's rendered. They bowed the head and made obeisance in the Jewish Publication Society. And same with the King James Version. It's cute how those two are often quite similar. Bowed down in homage. Bowed low to pay him honor. Bowed their heads and did obeisance. And they do bow. Okay, so you get the idea there. So hopefully that helps you to understand the act of worship a little bit better as it's used in the Hebrew language. This may, just to make this practical, you could almost call it like a little homework assignment. This may be something you'll want to do more often. Remember that worship is not just something that happens in your heart, although yes, that is where it needs to start. Yeshua talked about worshiping the Father in spirit. So yeah, this is a spiritual act, but it is also a physical act. You can't separate the two. And so this may be something that you want to get in the habit of. Maybe you could even start in your own private prayer times. Get down on your knees and get down on your face before God. And just let that, just think about what that physical act actually means. The attitude and the posture of your heart before Him and what that could communicate to Him. And, it could even be something that you do in a worship setting if you go to church or maybe even a Messianic synagogue. I mean, if you go to a traditional synagogue, you may not want to do this. But, in a church or a Messianic synagogue, there's generally freedom to physically express your worship to God in appropriate ways. And this could be one of those ways you do that. Okay. Let's continue reading here. Verse 29. Vaisa, and he nasad, he lifted up. Einav, his eyes. Vayal, and he ra'ad, he saw at Benjamin. Benjamin, Achiv, his brother. Ben, the son of Imo, so the son of his his mother. So this was his full brother. Vayomer, and he amard, he said, Hazeh. So again, ha means he's asking a question. Zeh, this. So is this Achichem, your brother, Hakaton? So literally, Katan means to be little, your little brother. Of course, physically it doesn't mean that he was, shorter or he weighed less than the other brothers. Not physically small, but rather in the sense of he was the youngest. And this is how, this is the concept that we also have in English. Your little brother doesn't mean that he's littler than you. In fact, I have 3 younger brothers, and we're quite close in age. My parents had the 4 of us within a 5.5-year span, and we all survived, and so did my parents, thank God. Although sometimes it sounds like my mom barely survived with 4 very energetic little boys rampaging around the house. But anyways, so growing up, I and my second brother, we were the big boys, and then my third and fourth brother were referred to as the little boys. Eventually, my youngest brother got taller than the rest of us, and my third brother got heavier than the rest of us, and the little boys ceased to be so little. So it's interesting how we have this in both Hebrew and English. And I'm actually, the reason I'm expounding on this is because we're going to talk about a phrase in the Gospels that really, like, this Hebrew understanding helps us to understand better. It's kind of an enigmatic phrase, and sometimes I think it gets interpreted incorrectly because it's not interpreted in the original Jewish context of the Bible and the Jewish context of the New Testament. So just, heads up, that's coming. Remember this fact. So here, the little brother means the youngest brother, all right? Ashel, who amartem, so you amard, you said Elai to me, so of whom you spoke to me. Vayomar, and he amarred, he said, Elohim, God, Yachnacha, so may he favor or be gracious to you. There's the cha for you. Beni, my ben, my son. This is interesting. I want to point this out also in the Hebrew. Yachnacha literally means he will be. He will be gracious. He will favor you. And it's like the incomplete. Like in Hebrew, you probably know this, but you don't have past, present, future verb tenses. As such, you have complete and incomplete actions. And so anyways, this has the sense, it can have two senses. It can be like stating a fact, like, he will, or it can be expressing a wish, may he. So, you can understand this as, may God be gracious to you, or it can be, you could understand this as him saying God will be gracious to you. And it's the same thing in the Hebrew. It's actually very powerful. This is the same thing in the Birkat Konim, the priestly blessing. In English, we usually read that, may the Lord bless you and keep you. It's like expressed as a good wish, and it is a good wish. But in Hebrew, it literally says, the Lord will bless you and keep you. It's more than just expressing a good wish. It is repeating a promise. Verse 30, Vayimaher, and Mahard, and hurried, Yosef, ki, because nichmaru rachamav. Now, this is a Hebrew idiom. We're going to look at this because it's also an expression used to describe Yeshua. Okay, so like the verbal root here is kamal, right? And it's used in a couple of different ways. So we're going to look at the next word first, and then we're going to use Isar to look at how this word is used and how it's translated throughout the Hebrew Bible. Rachamav. Okay, so a racham literally is a womb. It's your uterus if you're a female, and if you're a male, it's your non-uterus that you don't have, but that you would have, kind of idea. So just take note of that. All right, rechem, womb. It also has the sense of deep feeling or emotion. For instance, rachamim in Hebrew is the word for compassion or mercy. I think it has the sense of empathy also, honestly, because like rachamim, as compassion or mercy, it's the way that a mom feels about her baby, the baby of her womb. Whether the baby is still in utero or whether the baby's been born. You look at the way a mom feels about her baby, and she has a very, very strong sense of mercy and compassion for the baby. She has a very strong sense of empathy with the baby, right? So it's a big word in Hebrew. So having said that, let's look at so there's something about his rachamav here. Basically, his rachem is kamaring. He could, like, if you were to kind of anglicize the Hebrew, his rachem is kamaring. So what does that mean? Like, Joseph's womb is kamaring, figuratively speaking. So let's look at that together, because this phrase isn't actually used that many times, but it in the Hebrew scriptures. But it also is used in reference to Yeshua and how he felt about the crowds who came to him. All right, so 43:30. Let's look at the Strong's number here. Did you notice how I just flipped it from like the text to the text plus? So that means it has the Strong's number. So I'm kind of showing you what I'm doing here as I go. All right, so here, it says Joseph hurried out. Why? He was deeply stirred. All right, so this translated here as deeply stirred. So deeply here, as you can see, is racham. And then you can read the description. Compassion in the plural, by extension the womb. So bowels, tender love, mercy, pity, womb, etc. All right. Okay. So then stirred. This is the word kamar. And as you can see here, I was going to point, but you can't actually see me pointing. See right there? No, here, well, this is what we're going to do. You can see down at the bottom there, it says that it occurs 4 times in the Hebrew Bible. So not actually that many times, which is why I want to point it out here. All right, so we're going to right-click on the word, quick search on it, and it's going to show us every time where this word occurs and how it's used. Now you'll notice it's actually only used once in the Torah, which is why I want to point it out here, because this is like the only chance I get to point it out. Unless we end up reading through 1 Kings, Lamentations, or Hosea for Hebrew verses, and I don't know that we're going to be doing that anytime soon. I mean, I love Lamentations. It's a very positive and encouraging and happy book. But you know, well, so this is our chance. Okay, so look at, here it's translated as deeply stirred, all right? Similarly, the next time it's used is in reference to a mother and her baby. Surprise, surprise. Remember the story of Solomon and the 2 prostitutes? And they were fighting over a baby, and they brought it to Solomon. Okay, so this is that story. It says so the real mom was deeply stirred over her son. Okay, that's the next time that phrase is used. The way a mother feels for her child if the child's life is threatened. Lamentations, now this is interesting. Become hot is how it's used there. Become hot. And then finally, in Hosea, God is speaking to Israel in general, and specifically to Ephraim, to the northern tribes of Israel. He says, "My compassions," and the word there is nichum. So it's not the exact word, but it's related. So nichum, my compassions are what? Are kamard. They are kindled. All right. So you can see, and if I'm not mistaken, there's actually a related word for like pagan priests, and like the worship of the sun and stuff. So it's kind of like, because the sun is like hot, like how it's used here, become hot. The sun, is kindled, so to speak, and so you can see that sense. So it has the sense of, like, if you can imagine, like, the deep feelings that you would have in your, if you were in your uterus, so to speak, like very deep feelings, and specifically like emotions that are kindled, like hot feelings, so to speak, or the feelings that a mother would have for her child. Like, that's the idea there. And all right, so and again, this is a pretty rare phrase, but it is used in the Gospels also. If you look at Matthew, for instance, the early church fathers were pretty much unanimously agreed that Matthew was originally written in Hebrew. And we have some different versions of the Hebrew Matthew out there. No one can say if they're the originals or not. They probably aren't. But it gives the sense of like the way Matthew would have read in the language in which it was originally written and communicated. And interestingly enough, when Yeshua, it says he felt compassion for the crowds. Well, guess what the Hebrew phrase there is there? It's this word. So it gives you a little bit of an insight into the Messiah. It gives you this glimpse of the way Yeshua felt about his own people and these crowds who came to him with these needs. Specifically, like, I'm thinking of the end of Matthew chapter 9. In fact, let's look at that real quick. So Matthew chapter 9, because I want these studies to be Messiah centered. I want these to really be instances through which we can come to know Yeshua better, like in a very personal way. And okay, so here it is. So at the end of Matthew chapter 9, it describes him, traveling, teaching, healing people. Then it says, seeing the people in that context, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dispirited, like sheep without a shepherd. So they were lost. They were discouraged. And, and he said, like, guys, like, pray that the master of the harvest will send out workers into the harvest. And then, the chapter 10, he sends his disciples out. Boom. So you can almost see that it was like the compassion of the Messiah that resulted in this movement of him sending his disciples to his people to bring healing and guidance and encouragement and spiritual freedom. It started with the way Yeshua felt for his people, that deep compassion, that burning compassion. All right. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out because it's very powerful. And this is the only chance that we would get to actually talk about this phrase. Okay, so let's pick up in the story. We're almost done here. Hang in there. Don't go anywhere, right? Okay, so nichmaru rachamav. So he was deeply stirred. El to achiv, his brother. Vayivakesh, so he bakashed. He sought, or he looked for a place. Livkot, so to bacha, to cry. Vayavo, and he bowed. He came. Ha chadra, so to the cheder, to the room, like an inner room. Vayevch, and he bachad, he cried. Shama, so there. Verse 31. Vayochatz, and he rachatzed, he washed. Panav, so his face. Vayetze, and he yatzad, went out. Vayitapak, so this verb here, pak, it has the sense of like controlling, basically. So he controlled himself. In one place it's translated as force, and it has the sense of composing yourself. So he composed himself. Vayomer, and he amart, he said, Simu, so sim means to put or place. Lachem, bread, put bread. In other words, serve the meal. Verse 32. Vayasimu, and so they seemed, like they put or placed. Lo, for him, levado, by himself. V'lahem, and to them. Levadam, by themselves. V'la mitzrim, of course, Mitzrim are the citizens of Mitzrayim, Egyptians. Ha-ochlim, who were achaling, eating. Ito, with him. Levadam, by themselves. Ki, because. Lo yuchlun, so yuchal means to be able. Lo yuchlun, not able. Ha-mitzrim, Egyptians. Le'echol, to achal, eat. Et, with. Ha-ivrim. I have to laugh, because if we were to just read that, well, et means indicates the direct object. Egyptians aren't able to eat Hebrews, but here it means it's used as a preposition for with. They're not able to eat with the Hebrews. Lechem, bread. Ki, because toeva, so toeva is like an abomination, something that's gross or disgusting or repulsive or inconceivable. Toeva, he is it the Mitzrayim, to Egypt. Interesting. They wouldn't even eat with Hebrews. Verse 33. Vayeshvu. And okay, so the verb like yashav means to sit. So vayeshvu, and they sat lefanav, in front of him. Habachor, so the oldest. Bivchorato, in his bechorah. I guess the word for birthright, it has the sense of like, his position as the firstborn. V'hatzail, and the tzair, the youngest, kiet tzirato, so according to his youth. Actually, this is kind of an interesting phrase here, kiet tzirato. Let's look at how this is translated, because it doesn't really translate directly, Like sometimes we talk about the birthright, the bechorah, of the bechor, the firstborn, but we don't talk about like the youngest born has his tzirah. What is that? It's not like there's a word for that as such. Just means the lovability, I guess. Everybody always loves firstborns. A little slip of the tongue there. I'm a firstborn, so of course I'd say that. I mean youngest borns. Youngest borns generally are more fun and more entertaining and more lovable. All right, so let's have a look at this and how it's translated. Hopefully you don't mind like that I'm looking up some of these words and how they're translated. I really do find it interesting. And, this is an in-depth study to help us understand not only the Hebrew language, but also Hebrew culture. Okay, so here in the NASB, it's translated the youngest according to his youth, right? So let's have a quick look at how this is rendered in a couple other different translations. Compel. I have to say it the Israeli way. Compel. Okay, so what's that actually word? According to his youth. Oh yeah, tzira. Okay. So if you're the youngest born, hopefully you appreciate this. Oh, okay. Younger according to his youth. See here, it's rendered, the firstborn according to his seniority. Younger according to his youth. Firstborn in the place of honor. Youngest in last place. Oh, I don't like that. Fail. Okay. Firstborn according to his birthright. See, it's translated there accordingly. Youngest according to his youth. Okay. Yeah, see, like it doesn't really translate directly. There isn't a word in English for that. We have a word for like your position if you're the firstborn, but we don't have a word in English for your position if you're the lastborn. Rip off. Okay. We need to change that. Feel free to send in your suggestions to Holy Language Institute, and we can start a movement. Okay. Vayit ma'u. So, and was it like tamad, like, and they were amazed. Ha'anashim, the ishes, the men. Ish, each man. El, to re'ehu, so to his rea, to his friend. In other words, to each other. They all looked at each other in amazement is the idea there. Verse 34, last verse. Vayisa, and he, like, it means like to pick up or to carry. Masot. It means like servings, portions, presents that were carried. Me'et, so from Panav, his face, from in front of him. Alayam, to them. Vaterav, so and was bigger, greater. Masat, so that's the the masa of the present of, or the portion of Binyamin. Oh, here you go. See, this is where the tzira kicks in, like the youngest born position. Me masot, from the portions of Kulam, all of them. Chamesh, 5 yadot. So a yad is a hand, and yadot are hands, literally. In other words, like 5 times. So Benjamin, the youngest, got 5 times as much. That's what maybe we should just say it means 5 hands. 5 hands. If you're the firstborn, then you have the birthright. And if you have the youngest born, you're the youngest born, then you have the 5 hands. Or 5-fold. How about the 5-fold? How does that sound? The oldest gets the birthright, and the youngest gets the 5-fold. Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyways, just started thinking about the 5-fold ministry. Let's not develop a theology from that. All right. So Vayishtu, and they shatad. They drank. Vayishkaru. Now, okay, this word means to drink, right? This word also means to drink. But obviously, the Torah isn't just wasting breath, so to speak, in saying the same word twice. It doesn't say Vayishtu, and they drank, Vayishkaru, and they drank imo with him. This word means to get intoxicated or to get drunk. So they drank, and they obviously they were drinking alcohol, and maybe they drank a lot of alcohol. I kind of wonder. There's a very interesting fact here. This may have been strategic on Joseph's part. He may have, intentionally served them all the alcohol that they could ask for, that they wanted, or that they would drink, because that would loosen them up, and maybe he was listening into their conversation. While he sat there eating his food, pretending to be just an Egyptian who couldn't understand what they were talking about, he could have been getting some key information. You have to remember that they just released Shimon to them, and they hadn't seen their brother in a long time, so they could very well have been doing some catching up there, telling some stories. Maybe Shimon talked about his time, rotting in an Egyptian prison, etc. So that's how this story, this particular part of the story ends. So they drank and they got drunk with him, with Joseph. So that was our Hebrew verses study. I love the fact that this is a story. Stories flow really well. I also love the fact that we can just get together and, read the Torah in Hebrew over coffee and be Talmidim, being disciples of Yeshua together. I love the fact that, as we go through these studies, we can look at some Hebrew words and we can unpack them, and we can also learn a little bit more of what they have to tell us about the Messiah, because Yeshua is the Aleph and the Tav. Everything in the Hebrew language should point to him. Yeshua he's the Word, he's the Torah made flesh. So really, as we study the Torah, hopefully it's pointing to the Messiah. Paul talked about that. Christ is the end of the law. That doesn't mean he terminated the Torah. The Greek word there, telos, has the sense of he's the goal of the Torah. So he is the one at whom the Torah points, and to whom the Torah directs us. So anyways, thanks for joining me in this study, and I can't wait to have you join me in our next study, and congratulations as you continue to grow in your Hebrew understanding and in your discipleship to the Master.